Be some socialist reforms in the 80s. Yeah. And he realized this, by the way, afterwards. And we started giving back those, contractors and businessmen back their assets and their companies and their...
He made only the tiniest, sort of most formal criticisms that some of his father's economic policies were mistaken, but that his father then had recognized that their mistakes were made and corrected those mistakes.
And are there also times when you are critical of your own, of your father, or do you think that there was a failure to move far enough with reform before 2011 came?
Maybe the reforms didn't move as quickly as we wanted, of course, but it was moving. It was moving. Yeah. So everything was okay. Maybe not very fast, but fast enough.
So he was really idealizing his father and essentially saying that everything had been a mistake. He was going to pick up where things left off 10 years ago and deliver a better future for the country.
If the Libyans choose a strong president, the only thing we need is a strong president. That's it. The Libyans will choose a strong one. So everything will be solved automatically. Yeah. It's as simple as that.
And that he had the authority to rebuild the state, which of course is a vast, vast and difficult enterprise. He made it sound simple. At one point I asked him about a really humbling experience he went through when, at the end of 2011, his father's regime has collapsed and he was on the run. And at that point, he was utterly dependent on ordinary Libyans. At that time, in order to survive, he was dependent on them to shelter him. Had that changed his perspective? And he seemed surprised by the question. He said, "We're like fish, and the Libyan people are like a sea for us. That's where we get support. That's where we hide. The Libyan people are our ocean." I was really struck by that. It just seemed to make so clear that this guy, even after this decade in the wilderness, living almost entirely alone and having had these humbling experiences, still thinks of himself as part of this really royal family, utterly different and apart and somehow born to rule.
So he'd essentially learned nothing.
That was my sense. And I was even curious sort of, on a personal level, who is this guy?
Tell me about your life since 2011.
Yes.
What has your life been like since then? I mean, are you married and you have...
No.
Oh. So is it a lonely life you're living?
Yes, unfortunately.
So I said, what do you do every day? When you get up, what do you do? Mm.
Well, I spent a lot of time reading and writing. Mm. Yeah.
What are you working on? What, anything, a special project? Or?
Yes. Yes.
What is it?
In English? The word in English?
Munafiqeen. Hypocrites, yeah.
Hypocrites.
Is this partly about your experience?
Yes. Yeah, inshallah, it's going to be a good book. I will send you a copy.
I asked him, do you read? He said, yeah, I read.
Is there any books that I would recognize that you...
Oh, a lot.